Welcome back everyone to my channel and to part 4 of my TV show collection. So I'll try not to make this go on too long. Now when I stopped the last time, I was in letter I. These are all in alphabetical order, sort of, but not really. And so let me do a couple of updates from previous letters before I get back into letter I. So starting out with a couple of things that I picked up, actually 3 things that I picked up from Dollar Tree. And the first one is this thing from BBC, which I've never watched, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, starring, let's see, who are these people? Elijah Wood and Samuel Barnett. Okay, that's season 1 or something like that. And it was $1. I wasn't going to pass it up. Also, I picked up the first season of Duck Dynasty, which I've never seen. Now, I know something about this, and I've seen the main guy, the head duck or whatever he is, doing some speaking on YouTube, and I kind of like the guy, so this would be kind of fun. I have no idea what to expect from this, really. And finally, this is a classic TV collection. This is 35 episodes of 2 westerns from the 1950s. The first one is a show called Fury, which was sort of a kids western starring Peter Graves and Bobby Diamond. And Fury was the name of a horse. 23 episodes of that show. That show was on Saturday morning TV almost my entire young life, and I never missed it. So it'll be really nice to see it again. Also, 12 episodes of another 1950s Western that I never heard of called The Painted Stallion, starring Ray Corrigan and Hoot Gibson. Okay, so here we go. And finally, from the letter E, I have 20 episodes of this classic show, East Side, West Side, from one season on CBS, 1963 and 1964. Total of 26 episodes. I have 20 on here, so I don't have the complete season, but almost all of them. Starring George C. Scott as a crusading social worker in New York City. His name was Neil Brock, assisted by Elizabeth Wilson and Cicely Tyson. Terrific shows. I'm so glad I sent away for this. I showed this earlier when I was doing the letter E, because I had a couple of episodes that I bought from somebody, but this has so many more of them. I've watched most of these, and it's funny because I can remember scenes and dialogue between some of the characters that stayed in my head for all these years, which is probably why I'm as crazy as I am. Very good show. I'm very happy that I got it. Okay, getting back to the letter I. Also from Dollar Tree and from BBC, this is a show called Intruders, starring, among other people, we have Mira Sorvino. We also have John Sim, James Frain. It's an eerie paranormal thriller. I think this is season 1, so I have no idea what to expect from this, but that will be kind of fun. From Alpha Video, I've got this James Dean Legendary Performances. 4 television episodes that James Dean was in between 1951 and 1954, one of which has him co-starring along with Natalie Wood, who of course was with him in Rebel Without a Cause. So I think there are even more James Dean TV episode performances that are not included here, and might be kind of fun to see those eventually. Next up, I have season 1 of an old Western called The Adventures of Jim Bowie, starring Scott Forbes. Now, the reason why I bought this, a couple of years ago, this is being heavily pushed by Critics' Choice Video. Whenever you call up to order something, they would offer this at a very low price. And these are all digitally remastered, 38 episodes, and I wasn't going to pass that up, so I'm very happy to have it. And here is a real treasure. I'm so happy I have this. John Cassavetes as Johnny Staccato. This was on one season, 1959-1960. And at that time, John Cassavetes had already made his mark as an actor on a lot of TV shows. He was starting to do movies. He had done a lot of Broadway. And by this time, he had already directed his first film called Shadows. He was getting a lot of attention. And I'm not sure exactly why he did this TV series. Maybe just to make money for his family. I'm not sure. But this is a great show, kind of like Peter Gunn in a way, because it involves a jazz club and jazz music and that kind of dark film noir atmosphere. These are very gritty, very well acted and well written stories, and it has a lot of great people in it. Let's see, Eduardo Cianelli plays the owner of the jazz club called Waldo's, which is where Johnny Staccato always hangs out. He is an ex-musician, piano player, and also an ex-detective who just would kind of rather just be playing jazz and living sort of a beatnik life, but he keeps getting pulled into all these mysteries and murders. Along the way, we have a lot of interesting guest stars like Michael Landon, Susan Oliver, Jack Weston, Elizabeth Montgomery, and even Gender Rowlands. John Cassavetes' wife is in one episode, so I'm very, very happy to have this. Johnny Staccato. Next up, we have, getting into the letter J farther, we have the Judy Garland Show, which was on one season on CBS. No, don't worry about that. Something just fell on the floor. One season on CBS, 1963, 1964, when Judy was about 40, maybe 41 years old. And this box set came out. This is actually the reason why I started buying DVDs in the first place, because this was released sometime in the 1990s only on DVD. It wasn't on VHS, and I didn't want to miss this. So this has 5 volumes, several shows, complete shows, and it also has a nice little book. The Making of the Judy Garland Show is called Rainbow's End, which I've read, and just terrific music. She has guest stars like Mickey Rooney. I think he was on the first show. Liza Minnelli is on one show. Barbra Streisand, Ethel Merman, Lena Horne, Bobby Darin. For a while, Jerry Van Dyke was one of the regulars. He was doing comedy on the show, and it's fun seeing him interact with Judy Garland. Just a treasure to have these. I never missed the show when it was on, and it didn't. Well, it was up against Bonanza, which it just couldn't make it, but it's too bad. Also with the Judy Garland Show, these came out later. They were not part of the original box set. This is the Christmas show she did during the run, and all of her children are on this, including Liza Minnelli, who sings a couple of solos. And then we have these. Some of these are concerts. When the show was not doing well toward the end of its run, they decided they would just have Judy Garland in concert and just standing in front of an orchestra singing, much like she did during her concert years in the 1950s. And of course, that was always wonderful to see. And also Judy Garland, this is a collection of some of the TV specials that she did during the 1950s and up into the 60s. One of them is called, again, Judy Garland, the concert years. Then we have Live at the London Palladium, co-starring Liza Minnelli when she was 17 years old. This was in 1964. Judy Garland, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. And then Judy Garland with Robert Goulet and Phil Silvers. Okay, so how's that? Any Garland fans out there? Oh, I just love her. Okay, then now we get to a terrific Western. 4 seasons, which is the entire run of this terrific show called Laramie, from 1959 to 1963, starring John Smith and Robert Fuller. Just absolutely one of the best Westerns, and I'm so happy to have this. And yeah, just a terrific relationship between these guys. John Smith is the owner of a ranch. He's living there with his younger brother, and Robert Fuller plays a drifter who just sort of insinuates himself into their lives and starts working there, and all of their adventures with, all the typical cowboy and Indian stuff that you all love. I know you do. Now, another Western. This is Lawman, starring, who is this guy? What's this guy's name? Let's see, John, oh man, my memories, or my glasses are on my head. John, what is this guy's name? John Russell as deputy, as Sheriff Marshal Dan Troop, and Peter Brown as Johnny McKay. And these are a lot of fun. It's one of the Warner Brothers Western series back in the 1950s, early 60s, that was inspired by Cheyenne, starring Clint Walker. These are all really well-made shows and a lot of fun to watch. Okay, next up I have, this is what fell on the floor, Leave It to Beaver. The first season in this nice little lunchbox. How cool is that? Leave It to Beaver. A nice, fun show that I remember. Didn't watch it all the time, but I watched it in reruns. I also have 2 more. One is Leave It to Beaver, second season, and season number 4. I think altogether there were 6. So I would like to have all the rest of them. That's kind of a historic thing. Next up, this is one episode. I bought this at a Star Trek convention. Now, this is one episode of a TV show that was on for one season called The Lieutenant, which was created and produced by Gene Roddenberry, who also created Star Trek. Now, the reason why this was at a Star Trek convention is because it features the television debut of Nichelle Nichols, who of course will later go on to be in the Star Trek series, and she is the queen of Star Trek. Now, this is it also features Gary Lockwood was the star of the show, and the other guest stars Dennis Hopper and a guy named Don Marshall, who's here with Nichelle. Don Marshall also appeared in a Star Trek episode, so I've seen him at Star Trek conventions and gotten his autograph. But this is very good seeing Nichelle Nichols when she was just starting out on television. So next up, I have a whole bunch of seasons of this show called Lights Out from the early 1950s from Alpha Video. These are just very primitive. I think they were all done on kinescopes and great covers. Just creepy stories, kind of a pre-Twilight Zone. I haven't watched all these. I watched some of them. But now I think in this very first season, one of the people who acts in it is Veronica Lake, believe it or not, who's a big star at Paramount. And okay, Lights Out. Next up I have, this is a TV special from 1973 called Liza with a Z, directed by Bob Fosse, and let's see now, starring of course the wonderful Liza Minnelli. Now Liza Minnelli by this time had made a big splash in cabaret. She had become a superstar almost overnight, and this is a great little package here. Very cool. Now it's interesting because as you find out when you listen to some of the commentary on here, because it's a long interview with Liza Minnelli, somehow after this show appeared on its initial run and was repeated once, most of these specials, they just disappear and they may never be seen again. Somehow Liza Minnelli gained ownership of this special, but it was lost for a long time, and I can't remember now it's got a long story about how she came to own it and how it was lost and then it was found somewhere, so they remastered and they released this. But this is really terrific music, and it's very much a product of its time, but it shows Liza Minnelli in her prime as a performer. So Liza with a Z. Next up is let's see, have some episodes of The Lone Ranger. I'd like to have all of them, but this is 2 DVDs over 7 hours of classic TV episodes of The Lone Ranger. Another thing that I remember watching when I was growing up, which is just ingrained in my memory, and it's always fun to see these. Now, next up is a TV series called The Loner, starring Lloyd Bridges. If this was on from 1965, I think it was 1966, one season. Obviously, it didn't do very well, but I'm very glad I picked this up. It was on sale, very inexpensive at Walmart, and otherwise I probably wouldn't have picked it up. I'm very glad that I did. Lloyd Bridges is a great actor. Each one of his sons plays in this. Beau Bridges and Jeff Bridges, they are seen in episodes here. Lloyd Bridges plays, let's see, what is his name here? His name is Colton, a former Union cavalry captain who rides the American West in search of himself. Yeah, so it has kind of that mid-60s rebellious feeling and kind of questioning everything that we've ever valued or cared about. It just has that kind of vibe. Very well done. Lloyd Bridges is a great actor. Next up is a couple of episodes of a classic TV show called The Loretta Young Show. This is a bootleg that I picked up at a flea market or something. Next up, the entire series of Lost in Space. I've waited for years for this to sort of come down in price, and I'm very glad that I have this. Never missed this at all when I was growing up. Great little show. Next up, we have all 6 seasons of The Lucy Show, right? How can you not have The Lucy Show? I'm very glad I have these. Something else we all watched. Never missed it. Okay, now we get to the letter N, and I have, let's see. a few seasons of the original Magnum P.I. starring Tom Selleck. I have season 1, season 2, seasons 3 and 4. Yeah. Come on, Tom. There we go. And then I skipped to season 6 and season 8. I can't even remember now how many there were. I think there were 8 or 9, but I'm missing a couple. So eventually I will try to get all the rest of them. That was a great show. Next up we have 5 episodes of Marcus Welby Md, starring Robert Young, James Brolin, and Elena Verdugo, which is another show that I never missed when I was growing up. So I'd like to have more of those too. Next I have Volume 1 of Mary Hartman, starring Louise Lasser, which was a very satirical look at American society and soap operas, and this was a big phenomenon back in the 70s, and I didn't watch it at the time. I think I caught a few episodes, but this came up for sale, and I thought, okay, let's check this out. It is actually pretty funny, so I'm glad I got it. Next up, and to end this little episode, I have all 7 seasons of The Mary Tyler Moore Show, which is still one of the best TV shows ever. And I still think these are funny. I miss her very much. God bless her. Okay, that's the end of part 4, and I will be back with more later on. Thank you for watching.